Hello everyone. In the previous session, we had a discussion on leadership where we have understood the meaning of leadership based on the differences between leadership and management. Now, let us move on to the next topic where we have characteristics of leadership. The very first characteristic or the fundamental feature of leadership is leadership implies the existence of followers, where it means that if you can be called as a leader only if you have a follower or you have a group of people who are following your orders or obeying your decisions. So based on the quality of followers or the nature of followers one leader is having, his leadership will be decided whether it is a qualitative leadership or the followers will be responsible for leadership quality. And then we have the second one as leadership involves community of interest between the leader and his followers. This means the objectives of leader and his followers will be one and the same. So the followers here obediently going to follow the directions or decisions taken by the leader. That is the second feature or characteristic. The third feature is leadership involves an unequal distribution of authority among leader and group members. Here the leader is being superior, he has a higher authority to make decisions and discuss the same with the followers, whereas the followers also may have the authority to take decisions or involve themselves in the decision making process and planning process, but the more authority is centralized in the leader, not in the members, or there is unequal distribution of authority between leader and the group members. Okay, and the last one we have is leadership implies that leader or leaders can influence their followers in addition to being able to give legitimate directions. This means the leader is not only going to give orders or not only making the decisions, he can also influence the behavior and attitudes of the followers, and thereby he wants to achieve the objectives. It is a group activity. Leadership is a group activity where the leader is the one who is able to influence in addition to what? In addition to giving commands or directions. In that way, the leadership has these very important 4 characteristics. And the next concept is now what kind of approaches a leader can have so that the leadership can be considered as it is a very good leadership or it is a better leadership. There are different approaches researched from different researchers. Very basic research which is on behavioral leadership or behavioral approach of leadership, and that leadership style we are going to understand in this session. Okay. So in this approach, that is behavioral approach of leadership, this has been put up in 3 points, that is 3 points of view. The first point of view is motivation. Second point of view is authority. That is you can say motivation leadership style or authority leadership. And the third one is supervision leadership style. These are the three viewpoints of behavioral approach of leadership, wherein motivation leadership can be of positive or negative behavior, and authority leadership includes autocratic style of leadership or democratic style of leadership, or it might be free reign. And when it comes to supervision leadership, it can have production oriented leadership or employee oriented leadership. So what is motivation leadership? In motivation leadership, the subordinates are motivated by the leader by either positive means or positive behavior or negative behavior. In positive behavior, the leader wants to motivate the subordinates through rewards and incentives. The negative behavior of the leader include punishments or threats saying that no hikes will be given or you will be removed from the job. So, and in that way he can have a negative motivation on the subordinates. When it comes to authority leadership, it talks about giving commands to the subordinates, where it can be of autocratic type or democratic or free reign. What do you mean by autocratic leadership? In this style, the leader is going to put his decisions on the subordinates, or the planning and decision making authority is solely lies with the leader. Only obedience is expected from the subordinates. They are not going to involve in the process of planning or decision making or organizing. Okay, that is the autocratic type of leadership. When it comes to democratic, the leader himself involves with the subordinates and the group activities will be carried out so as to achieve the objectives, and it is also called as participative leadership. Participative leadership, because subordinates as well as the leader himself are participating in the activities of the organization so as to achieve the objectives. And when it comes to free reign, there is no control over the subordinates' activities. No control over the subordinate activities. The leader provides the information, materials, and facilities for his men so as to carry out the objectives, or so as to carry out the activities to achieve the objectives. He is not going to involve in any of the activities. He believes his subordinates and gives complete freedom to access the authority and take decisions on their own. That is free reign leadership style in the authority leadership. Okay, and when it comes to supervision leadership, it is looking after the things or the activities, how it is going on. Supervision means In that, what we have is production oriented leadership and employee oriented leadership. When it comes to production oriented leadership, the leader cares about the production unit or the way production is going on, the activities inside the production unit. He is least bothered about the welfare of the employees. He is only concentrating on production of the company. And when it comes to employee oriented leadership, he concentrates more on the welfare of his employees or subordinates or peers. He is least bothered about the production of the organization. In most of the time, production oriented leadership is exercised because he will be having the pressure from his leaders or the manager who is sitting at the top, correct? Based on that, he exercises his authority whether he wants to be a production oriented leader or employee oriented leader, and it is not a like differentiation between production oriented and employee oriented. Some managers or leaders can be both production oriented as well as employee oriented. They have the features or they have the motives such that they care for employees as well as for the production of the organization. Okay, these are the different viewpoints under behavioral approach of leadership. Okay, I hope you have understood what kind of leaderships can be exercised in an organization based on the behavior of the leader. Okay, so next we will have the next concept, which is communication. So what do you mean by communication? Communication is the exchange of information between two or more people. It is a general definition. What might be another definition? According to Newman and Summer, it can be defined as the communication is the exchange of ideas, opinions, emotions between two or more people. Okay, here what we need to understand is communication is not only exchange of ideas, opinions or the emotions, it has to be properly understood by the other person as well. What you intended to communicate, what the one person intended to say has to be clearly understood by the other person who is at the receiver end. That is what communication. So what is the importance of this communication? When we come to importance in 1930s and all, before 1930s you can say, there the communication has been ignored. The classicists or the people that particular era, they believed that technical and business aspects are the important things and communication is very having the very least importance. Okay, after 1930s, some of the researchers come up with the idea of importance of communication, where they have described that communication is a very important and basic concept of any organization, because you can see in any organization you take, before the birth of the organization till its lifetime or throughout the lifetime of the organization till it ends, communication is very, very essential, because when it comes to planning or organizing or decision making, staffing, recruiting, everywhere you require communication. That's why communication is having a paramount importance. And another point I want to note that here researchers have also come up with a point where 75% to 95% of the managers will be spending their time in communicating with either people at the higher level or with the government authority or with the department heads or with the peers. Okay, in that way communication is very important in every aspect of an organization. Now let us see what are the different purposes of communication. Okay, coming to the purposes of communication, communication is needed in the recruitment process, because the very first function you are going to do when you establish an organization is you recruit people for your organization. That's why it is a very important purpose where you get the applications from different applicants and then you scrutinize them depending on the qualification and specification for the particular positions you have. There you communicate with different people and your HR manager also will communicate with those applicants to get to know about the particular employees who are going to be into the organization. And then communication is needed in the area of orientation. Once you recruit the people for your organization, you have to orient them about the organization. That is, the rules and responsibility of each and every individual you need to communicate. That's why it is very important in the area of orientation. And the next point is communication is required for the employees to perform their functions effectively. So if the decisions taken are communicated effectively, then only employees can perform the functions effectively. Otherwise, there is no coordination among the employees and among the different levels of management. That's why it is very important for effective functioning. And then communication is required for self-appraisal. This is another aspect of any employee where he wants to project his nature of job or the contribution of the employee in front of the management. For that, he has to communicate with the management. He has to articulate his contributions to the organization. Thereby, he can get higher positions or hikes in the salary. Okay, that is why it is an important purpose. And then communication is needed to teach employees about personal safety at the jobs. That is also an important thing where you teach about the personal safety. If some mechanical job is there, what are the safety precautions need to be taken and complete the particular job. So that's about communication needed to teach employees about personal safety. And the next one or the sixth one we have is communication is of vital importance in projecting the image of enterprise in the society. This is also important because you have to be knowing the presentation skills or communicating skills so as to project the image of your organization or enterprise in the society. It might be through any media you present yourself and your organization. It might be you will be talking to government authority, or you will be talking to customers, or you will be talking to clients regarding your organization, and thereby you are going to create an image of your enterprise. So there lies the importance of communication. And then communication helps the manager in his decision making process. The manager, when he takes decisions, he has to communicate the decisions in an effective way. Then only the decisions will be taken in a correct manner by the subordinates, and the obedience of the decisions or orders will be there. That's why the communication helps manager in decision making process. And then we have communication helps in achieving coordination. As from the previous points also, we can see when you have organization and different departments, every department needs to be working in synchronization with one another, and that synchronization or coordination is achieved through communication itself. There is no other means. There is only through communication different departments and different levels of managers will be having an coordination. And then we have communication is an effective way to build support for change. Sometimes there will be everything not going well in the organization. At that moment, you have to communicate with the people so as to put your idea to change the particular order or sequence of activities going on. So you have to build the support for your idea so as to get it achieved, or the change has been accessed. In that way, communication helps you to build support for the change in an organization. And the 10th one, it is already discussed, that is 75% to 95% of the time of a manager is spent in communicating with different stakeholders. It might be customers, or it might be clients, or the employees at different levels and managers at different levels. So the next concept we have is coordination. We have understood communication now. Now let us see what is this coordination. So coming to coordination, coordination is the management of interdependence in work situations, where different departments or different people will be linked together for a particular objective. The meaning can be in this way: it is the orderly synchronization or fitting together of the interdependent efforts of individuals to attain a common goal. So the activities which have been carried out by individuals will be going to be integrated so as to attain a common goal in coordination mechanism. So that is the meaning of coordination, where different people come together and support each other and get the objectives or goals achieved. Now let us see what are the various types in coordination. In three ways we can classify coordination. First one is internal or external coordination. Second way is to have vertical or horizontal coordination. The last one is procedural or substantive coordination. When it comes to internal coordination, it is the coordination between the departments, employees, peers, section heads, managers at the different level, and whatever internal to the organization. So the coordination which is within the organization between different departments, different employees, peers, subordinates, section heads and managers at different levels is called as internal coordination. When it comes to external coordination, it is the coordination between your customers and the organization, clients and the organizations, government authority and the organization. That is the external coordination. Coming to the vertical and horizontal coordination, when I say vertical coordination, it is between the department head and his subordinates. So vertical coordination means inside the department, where the department head comes up with the decision or plan and he expects coordination from the subordinates. When it comes to horizontal coordination, it is between different departments, It might be purchasing, sales, marketing department, research and development department, production department. So these are the ways where the horizontal coordination exists, that is between purchasing or sales, or between sales and marketing, purchasing and R&D and production. So the coordination between different departments is called as horizontal coordination. When it comes to procedural coordination, it is on the organization's structure itself. What do I mean to say is, here the different behaviors and the attitudes need to be followed in an organization by the organization's members will be indicated by this procedural coordination. So if an issue arises, what is the process to be followed so as to come up with a solution? That rules and regulations will be fixed by this procedural coordination so as to get the particular issue sorted out. Okay. When it comes to substantive coordination, it is related to content of the organizational activities. We can explain this with an example. When you consider an automotive factory, the organizational chart can serve as a procedural coordination. It is a means for indicating the procedural coordination, whereas the blueprints of an engine to be manufactured serves as a substantive coordination. So in that way we have different types of coordination: internal and external, vertical and horizontal, procedural and substantive coordination. So that's all for today. In this session we had discussed about the leadership characteristics, and then we have come across communication and its purposes, and coordination and various types of coordination. In our next session we will continue with the discussion on coordination. We will see what are the different mechanisms or approaches in coordination, and then we will move on to the next topic, which is controlling. Okay, thank you.